The pathway to success today is different than it was even 5 years ago, and it's definitely different than it was back in the '90s when Google upended the advertising industry and the media industry. The idea here is to win, and in this environment, the winners are those who are at the top of the Google search ranking and that are showing up on social media, either organically or using paid methods. And organic is in a lot of ways paid because you got to get really good at it consistently. And knowing how to manage the media investment, whether it's an organic investment in a content team to optimize that content to get what you need, or you're buying ad units like on YouTube or even Facebook now. If you can figure out how to create your profiles on Facebook in such a way that you really understand how to win in that algorithm, it's possible to pull a lot of money out of that system from a business standpoint. As this becomes more of a pro game, as it matures, I have to think hard as someone who is not going to spend 30, 50 grand a month on a media team and a marketing team um, run by experts. So I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to do it myself. The question then is how? How do I win? How do I crush Google with local search is just one aspect of this, but to focus it, we'll talk about Google. The end of Google means the end of Google for me is the recognition of the fact on the ground that I'm not going to cut through this. And if I do, it's not going to work because now I've got to manage a media team and the media buy, whether that's organic or paid. Still the same thing. I still have to figure out how to win every day. And there's three choices. One, I do it myself. Second, I hire somebody to do it for me. That's real money. Unless you find some just genius person that can do all of it for like 2 grand a month or 5 grand a month or whatever. That's possible, I think, or 10 grand a month, maybe. That's possible. Um, we were charging about 10 grand a month, 8 grand a month to our clients. And we were trying to bring in this kind of capability along with lead generation, business development, pipeline development, and management, and sales closing assists. And the answer at the end was no, got to pick. And we went the route of let's go get it. B2B sales, lead generation, closing assists in a niche. And when I walked away from that company, this company is successful. I still own it, but I'm giving up a lot of equity so I could get into what's next. And I see the pathway forward now, finally, 5 years of experimentation it took to see it. And now it's obvious. At least the principles of it are obvious. The doing it is another thing, but anybody can do this in the world. I don't think there's anybody who can't. So how to crush Google with local search now is exciting to me because if you look at Google right now, they're evolving it again. And this is what they're always going to have to keep doing. When it started, it was simple in its vision. And the idea Larry Page and Sergey Brin had, which many others had too, it was a competition. The key to it was the server farm. And what they did that was brilliant, it was they created a cloud, really. They created a way to run the search query fast enough where you had a good consumer experience. And without that, it's not going to work. So they did hardware and they bought cheap computers and they figured out, because they're engineers, how to partition them in a way that it would work. And I don't know, I don't care how that works, but IT people care a lot. And if they're good at it, they do it. And these guys did it, both of them. And that would have been in the 90s. Now, that's not enough. Now you have to develop the product from that. And they were in an environment with a lot of bad products. And the advertisers and marketers had taken over everything. So you had all these online platforms that they were desperately seeking business model instead of operating from an entrepreneur vision over the long haul to create a sustainable business. They weren't. They were desperately seeking a quick exit or cash or go public, or I call this technology founder mode. And this has become the approach. What happened with Google back in the day was they figured out, Larry Page called it page rank. And I thought it was named after him, page rank. No, it's a rank the pages. So you got all these pages, like a huge database of all this information. And the idea was, how do we know what people want in this mess? It's a mess. It's complex. There's a concept that was coming out called Wisdom of Crowds. And that book changed my life when I read it. And I won't get into the details, but I was in that industry. I jumped right in the minute I was like, yeah, this is it. Well, this is the early days of Google. How do we know based on behavior what people are going to want? That was Google. And they figured out technically how to do it. And that's the hard part. It's one thing to have an idea. Everyone had the idea, but it's another thing to execute in the marketplace. And they did that and they succeeded. The next piece of it was, why does it matter at all? Well, it mattered to them. So they had a vision. And the vision has to have a purpose anchoring it. That's the entrepreneur motivator. Passion and purpose is the motivator to get through all the hard times. And they had that. And the idea was bring the world's information to those who want it, all of it, the world's information, everything on Google, on the search engine. And that was the motivator behind the company. And it worked. Now you got to make money. And it worked. So what they figured out was those little ads. Remember the ads at the top, the ads at the side, search engine result page. They called it organic search. And then they had the little ads pop up based on the intent of that user who's searching, wants something. And they realized, oh, this is new. This is direct response marketing now online. The marketing people didn't want this to happen. The corporate interests did not want this to happen. And I remember going to a lot of conferences where people were freaking out, like, what do we do? What do we do? Or ignoring it. Can't ignore this. And then all of a sudden, the balance of power shifted to Google. And they decided to play nice with the business interests because that's how they make money. They had to take money to make money. At that time, it's different today. This is the exciting part that we're going to get to, is it's different today. Different, completely different. Back then, it cost huge money to build something like Google. Today, it doesn't. We're in a completely different environment. Back then, not so much. They took money. And in taking money, the money wants more money for their money. And the minute you go public, the money wants more money for their money every quarter. And you promise, and you better deliver, or you get punished. What happens when you get punished? You can't allow that to happen if you're a public corporation, because your job, and really your primary job, is to return either a dividend or growth to the shareholders. Because a lot of these places, they're like insurance companies, they're pension funds. They need stable delivery of return, or they're in trouble. Insurance companies investing afloat, they need it to return what they expect it to return. And there's a lot of people trying to figure that out in these companies. They have to hedge their risk. There's all kinds of, I could explain the financial industry, but just be aware that a public corporation has a responsibility, and you could even look at it as a fiduciary duty to, if a pension fund invests and they need 5% growth, they're going to get 5% growth, or they are not living up to the promise of their retirees that they have to pay because they promised. Interesting, huh? Government money. This is the big money in our economy, and it needs a return. So that's a public corporation model. So that's a corporate finance mode. It's just what it is. Now Google's in that. What are they going to do? It's going to erode two things. Three things. The first thing it's going to erode is the values. So they had a value, do no evil. It eroded it because they can't do it. They can't. You can't. There's a conflict. You gotta make the investors happy, and they have. I call them critics. Ratatouille, Anton Ego, the Ratatouille critic. It's like the critic for the New York Times. If you have a play in New York and open in Manhattan, and the critic says, "Nah, stinks," it's over. So if the stock analysts say, "We don't like what you're doing," it's over. You're in big trouble. You miss that earnings target by a penny, you're going to get punished because they need predictable return. The financial advisors are fiduciarily responsible to their clients to return what they say they can do, or they'll just switch advisory firm. And that can't happen because it's big money. So now we've got this system problem for Google. So they've got to deliver on their purpose and promise, do no evil, and bring this information to anybody who wants it, and then make money through the ad units. Over time, and it's been a lot of time now because these creation, destruction, rebirth cycles have sped up in our economy to the point now where it's like almost ridiculous, because now it's actually more fun, at least for me, like as an entrepreneurial thinker, because now it's constant change. It's not like something bakes and then it falls apart and then the market is reborn. I love that part, but now it's immediate. Living in the cycle of change is the way. I call this flexible founder mode. Living in the cycle of change, my way or your way, together now in a group with shared desire, is what's come into the market. It's not coming, it's here. It's been here for a little while, but it's being pioneered and proven in the marketplace. And it's what's next because it works and you can do it for almost no money. That's a big shift because now you can control your vision and your values. You don't have to compromise on them for investors. It's not about beating Google. It's about ignoring Google and making that decision. Am I going to play the technology founder mode game and win at Google? Now I'm using Google as an example, but you could pick Facebook, you could pick anything that's hard to cut through. And I'm just talking specifically about local strategies because I just went through something with this, and I'm forming my first home group in Skokie, Evanston area north of Chicago to put this local strategy into action. But I've also built a global metaverse video platform to do it. The integration of global and local is key to this. I think it's the best way to compete against these giants like Google, Amazon, Facebook. Microsoft's a very different thing. Oracle's a very different thing. Salesforce.com's a very different thing because those are businesses that have found a very solid business model, whereas the Googles and Facebooks are still dependent on the advertisers to make money for their investors. And that's a massive pressured environment. It's always been that way. Media companies, they're really at the mercy of the societal shifts more than anything. And the original promising of searching the best information through the power of crowd wisdom failed years ago. And I look at Google as a failed company and with a ton of money. And what they're trying to do, and I think they know this, and what they're trying to do, that's why Sergey Brin came back. He doesn't want his thing to fall apart. But it is. It has. So what they're trying to do is take the cash cow money and reinvest it in what's next, which they see as AI technology. To me, that's a pro game. But the problem with the pro game is those prices are going to plummet. They are, because I'm not playing that game. I'm not paying any attention to. I'm paying attention to it, and we're actually running an AI clarity session on our campus. We've got 3 people in our group that are mastered AI in different ways, and they get somebody like me that doesn't even use it. I played with it for about 9 months, and I'm like, I don't need it, but I get it, and it's important for some people. Now, there's agentic AI getting people to do stuff for you, and then there's generative AI getting it to create something for you. And I'm listening carefully and to the people who really know how this works. And one is the CEO of Microsoft, and he said, "No, we don't need a SaaS industry anymore." And that has a big impact on local strategies, huge, and a big opportunity for entrepreneurs. I can't even imagine doing what I'm doing now without this shift in the way money works in the economy and the way these big corporations are at the mercy of their investors and focused on what has to deliver massive results. So they're over here doing that. So I can be over here doing my little thing. You can too. Don't bring a knife to a gunfight. Bring a chainsaw and a bazooka. That's how I look at it. I got a chainsaw and a bazooka, not a knife. And I don't even have a gun. I don't need a gun. I got a rocket launcher. So I think of it as Google did not realize the original promise of its creators, and it's taking and reallocating its cash cow earnings and returns big opportunities for local groups. This returns big opportunities for local groups bonded together around shared desires. So you get visible and known, and then you don't need Google anymore. That's key. But it takes a decision to go that direction. Now you can split it. You can say, I'll experiment, I'll create an A/B test. I'll do what I'm talking about, flexible founder mode approaches, and then I'll keep going with the marketing on Google, Facebook. So I'm not talking about getting visible. I'm not talking about, I use every one of these systems. I'm experimenting in them every day, and I'm flowing with the changes that are going on in them. I'm just not building my business assets on it. It's a that's called top of the funnel. It's how you meet people, and then I get them out of it. If they want to come, I'm not going to force them. That's a pro game. Pro game is forcing them. That's the funnel strategies. It's too hard. And it requires a really understanding of media as well, whether it's organic media or paid media. It's extraordinarily I've been in the meetings like Resolution Media, DoubleClick. I spent a lot of time at Google's Chicago office because I was selling all this stuff. And Rise, top digital agency in Chicago, that sold for a ton of money to an ad. I've been in the WPP meetings, Publicis, and you know, and they're struggling with it for their clients. And I'm not going to be able to do that. You may, you may, but I'm not. So I'm going to open you up to an idea of a local chapter strategy organized by industry groups. I think over time, this is going to take down Google. I think they're going to reinvent their business using AI and become more like an electric utility. And there's a lot of money in electric utilities or airlines, but it's a different business than they're in now. They're in the ad network business, but it's not going to work, and they know this. That's why they're going so fast. The problem is some people may not want to go with them because it's like, I'm not ruining my life for your vision. Now, if you're an entrepreneur, an engineer at Google, or you can do it yourself. You don't need to go with them. So they used to give you time, to sit at the desk and do your own thing, and then they take it. um, Now you just do it yourself. You don't need them. You don't need all this money. You don't need to take money. So this slaughters the sacred cow. Um, and they're also going to get regulated because outside the United States, everybody's trying to get us. Canada, Mexico, and Europe in particular. Europe is not going to put up with this. They're going to say, no, you can't do this in our countries. We're not going to allow. Do what is what I'm talking about. And this is where I'm really getting to local search is you don't get the best product anymore or the best content anymore or the best ideas on Google anymore. That's dead. It's died. That died years ago when the financial interests had to win. Google had to. They didn't have a choice. You take public money, the public money is going to direct your decisions as the executive team in the company. And they brought in a professional, not entrepreneur, but a professional executive. So now you need a politician. You need somebody who can deal with all these competing interests and protect the company against government intrusions and um, lobby for your position in the economy, negotiate. It's a massive undertaking to run a public corporation. We don't have to do that. We don't have to work in them either. You can get free. You don't need it. That's the exciting part. We've never had a bigger chance to take back the local economy. And it destroyed my business. My family's business was taken down by all this and destroyed because the retail economy collapsed, and I created a distribution business, and it's just done. And I got out. I'm like, all right, I'm done. I'm not going to hold on to that. I call it the destruction of flyover country in the United States. A lot of people don't know what flyover country is. Flyover country is everything in the United States that's not in the major cities. Um, well, Chicago's a major city, but it's really not. It's flyover country. Um, we've never had a bigger chance to take this local economy back because the internet is an ad network now and it didn't realize its promise, which is what's offering us real serious opportunity. So there's pockets on Google, there's pockets on Facebook, there's pockets on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube where you can really win. Just don't build your business infrastructure on it. Use it as part of your business. The local strategy is key too, depending on what you do. That's why I'm talking about local search. What is local search for? um, Service providers, dentists, um, plumbers, electricians, anything local that where you need to get somebody to do something, barber shops. It's just all that stuff. That's a massive business. So I got into that business, then I got out and I went the corporate route, selling to corporations because there's just a lot more money in it. um, and the people were easier to deal. I sold insurance, business insurance to like mortgage brokers, funeral homes, accountants, local businesses. And I'm like, I did that for a year. It's like, well, that's enough. But organizing local solves this problem. And my first group, the home group, I've got the chair of it. Uh, he's a franchisee for a water remediation company. I've already brought in a local TV station person that does a home show and top plumbing company, mortgage broker, health insurance broker, like bringing the local economy together. And where I live, there's a lot of innovators, so it's not hard to do. And I'm used to doing that. And I understand local business and also the online economy, so I can bring it together. And I don't have to do anything except that, and then have protocols. So those groups are functioning well. Now restaurants can do this. I'm seeing models with restaurants. They share a kitchen. um, One does breakfast, maybe one does dinner. They can even put their brands together in the same location. You can do storefronts. We see reclaimed merchants now. This was going on years ago where the biggest category in my industry, children's clothing, for a long time was used clothes, consignment as well. And I was like, I got to open one of those things. And like, thank God I didn't and just got out. But our pricing power eroded over the years because there was just a glut of product everywhere. And I'm like, I created a brand for the distribution company, and no one had done that. I was thinking the first one in the industry that did that. But it doesn't last because you don't own the product. The manufacturers do. If you find your local people and connect globally in terms of being think about being dressed up. Your social media looks right. It makes sense. You've got content that explains who you are, what you are, why you matter, and you understand broadcast. And I have all these platforms, and we're going to roll out it all out. It's going to take 12 months to roll out this whole company, but we're rolling out the first phase the next couple weeks. So we're ready for people to start to show up, and I'm forming the first local chapter to pilot it. But I have connections with the number one networking group in Chicago. I've known uh, Tony for years, 25 years, and this other guy I just met, Bryant Stratton, who's figured out a funding model, family office money, even for entrepreneur companies. You don't have to take more than a couple hundred grand. You don't need $10 million. You know, look at the valuations of these companies. There's a fad, a trend maybe in the apparel industry called, I think it's called Voro. This model guy got popular on mail and social media, and then the Silicon Valley people go back to work and they don't know how to dress themselves. So they're buying his clothes, and they don't know the apparel industry. And I'm looking at these valuations, and they gave him almost $1 billion. That's never going to work. Because it's not original creation. Lululemon is an original entrepreneur idea. He didn't need that kind of money. You don't need. My father went to. He was his fraternity brother. My father's fraternity brother was Gordon Siegel, who founded Crate and Barrel and then sold it to a big German company. Gordy, Gordy. You know what they did? They didn't have enough money to buy fixtures, so they used the crates and they put stuff on top of the crates. They didn't need to raise $50 billion. They just did it. That's how entrepreneurs function. I've taught myself everything I know, and then I take action immediately. And I'm like, how do I do this with no money? Because if I take money, then I have to do what people tell me. So I think that model, technology founder mode, is it's a pro game, and it's run by bankers. Mark Andreessen's a banker. I mean, he started as an entrepreneur, but he never finished a company. So what he did was he didn't win in the business world, in the market. What he won was in the investment world, and he won. He's worth billions of dollars, billions. And I can't find one company that worked that he created in the market that still has customers. He sold to like AOL or eBay and then PayPal. A lot of this money came from PayPal, Peter Thiel, and I'm like, it's a terrible company. How's that a success? That's not a business success. This by the standards of like, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger. It's not a business success by Disney. It's a financial success. And I'm not playing that game. Why? I'm going to lose. Even if I win, I lose because now I got to keep doing it. I got to go to how's it going meetings every quarter. I'm just imagining, let's say I had a 10 billion, let's say I had Amazon. I'm floating around. I don't know what he's doing. I have no idea what Jeff Bezos is doing. It just doesn't make any sense. And the company's imploding in terms of the quality. The money's still rolling in. It always does until it doesn't. Um, so I look at this as a massive opportunity for us. And what I mean by us, I mean people who are very happy with making 20, 30, 40, 50 grand a month, making 100 grand a month, making maybe a million, 2 million a month. Micro company sizes expanded. A micro company used to be capped at like, I don't know, 5 employees. You don't even need employees anymore. But the solopreneur model, that's not going to get us there. And that's why we have the model I've created with partners. That's why we have it, because it works. It's pretty simple if you really think about it. And you're welcome to